Anyway, it says here, Sam recorded the amount of data in megabytes that she had used in each of the first 15 days in April. The information is shown in the table below. So information shown in the table, right? The first day she used 26 to 13. This is so not accurate. Who in the world uses, I don't know, man. Maybe this is data from 2001 or something, because there's no way someone can use 26 megabytes in a day, 3 megabytes in a day. No way. But I mean, we'll just take these as just numbers. But we're not gonna think realistically about it, because nope, never. It says here though, calculate the mean for the data set, and then we should calculate the standard deviation for the data set. So what we know is that getting the mean and getting the what you may call, getting the mean and getting the mean and getting the standard deviation.
Yes.
It's mainly a matter of um just a matter of using our calculator, right? So number
Yes.
1.1.1 A and
That
B.
is 25.
Oh, you were putting the stuff in the calculator, right?
Yes. I put it all in the calculator.
Yeah. Okay, cool then. So what are you getting? So yeah, putting in the calculator, we know you press what you may call mode and then stat and then var, put in the data, and then what else? After putting in the data, you press shift and then the number one button for stat, and then obviously you do whatever you need to do. And then what did you get as the mean?
So the mean I get 25.
Mean you get 25. Uh, yes. And then what are you getting in the standard deviation?
And then for the standard deviation, I get 17,652.
17.652. Great. Then nice. And then 1.1.2 says what now? It's a 2 mark question, right?
Yeah.
Um, 2 mark question that says determine the number. What does it say this question?
Determine the number of days which the amount of data used was greater than the one deviation above the mean.
Okay. Do you know how to work out these kinds of questions?
Um, isn't your one standard deviation the one we just calculated? And then your
Yes.
second one is when you put it to the power of 2, and your third one is when you put it to the power of 3.
Wait, hold on. So remember, one standard deviation is one of the standard deviation, right? So two standard deviation, would that be two of the standard deviation or two squared? I mean, or the standard deviation squared? Which one do you think is logically correct? Squaring the standard deviation or multiplying it by two?
Um, multiplying?
Yeah, because two of the standard deviation is two times the standard deviation, and then three of the standard deviation is three times the standard deviation.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyways, um, 1.1.2. Let's see. Uh, yeah. So the way you answer this kind of a question, you see, they say determine the number of days on which on which the amount of data used was greater than one standard deviation above the mean. So what you do is you take one standard deviation, right?
Yeah.
And you take you see here they say determine the number of days on which the amount of data used was greater than one standard deviation above the mean. So if you look at this as greater than one standard deviation above the mean, what you do is you take your mean, you add your standard deviation once, you get an answer, which is 42.6.
0.65.
Yeah. So this number here, you want to look for one standard deviation. So this is saying any number that is above this is a number that is above one standard deviation of the mean. So the values that are above this, you have 1 and you have 2. You see?
Okay.
Yeah. So that's two
But
numbers that are
how do how do you determine that again? The 58 and 69. Sorry.
yeah. So they want you to pick out how many numbers are greater than one standard deviation
Ah,
above the mean. So what you
okay.
do is you take the mean, you take the standard deviation and you add it once, you get a number.
Yeah.
And then you compare which numbers are above this number. You see, if they said how many numbers are below one standard deviation from the mean, you take your mean, you remove standard deviation once, and then you look for numbers below that. If they say within, then you have to get one standard deviation up, one standard deviation down, and then you get the numbers that are within that range. If they say 2 standard deviations, then you would just multiply the standard deviation by 2 when you will be adding it, you know. So it's going to be the mean times 2 standard deviations of the mean, blah, 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 and all that.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, yeah. So what does the next question say?
The next question is calculate the maximum total amount of data that Sam must use for the remainder of the month if she wishes for the overall mean of April to be 80% of the mean of the first 15 days. So basically, but you don't have much data. I was going to say you could calculate the overall mean,
Okay,
but
which is okay, go on. I just want to hear your thoughts.
and then divide it by 80%.
Well, the question said calculate the calculate the maximum total amount of data that Sam must use for the remainder of the month if she wishes for the overall mean of April to be 80% of the mean of the first 15 days. So this is what you may call the first 15, wait, how many days is this? This is the first 15 days, right? And then they said in the remainder of the month, right? She wants her overall mean to be 80% of this. So she wants her overall mean to be 80% of 25. What you're going to do is you're going to work out 80% of 25 to get an answer. Or let's just do this. Hold on. Let me just give me 2 seconds. I am is back. I am is back. So this
Yeah.
question, it's not very crazy actually. There's just something very specific that we need to do. So let's do this here. Let me make this in green. And yeah, let's do it. So they say it here, right? Calculate the maximum total amount. Well, did we press play? I think we did.
Mhm.
It says calculate the maximum total amount of data that Sam must use for the remainder of the month if she wishes for the overall mean of April to be 80% of the mean for the first 15 days. Okay, hold on. Oh, the overall mean of April. So remember, what we know is April is going to have 30 days, right? Or is it?
Yeah, I
30
think
days
so.
is normally what we can use. So let's see. We know this is 1, 2, 3, 15 days. So altogether, right, the mean here, so for the first 15, the mean is 25. So what we know is the first 15, the mean is 25. We want the overall mean to be equal to 80% of 25. What is 25? Yeah. What is 80% of 25?
20. If you divide it by 100.
20. Great. 80% of 25 is 20. So what
Is
we
it?
know is,
Because you put 80 over 100 times 25.
I don't know. I'm assuming you got that in the calculator. No, but 8, 20 doesn't feel. What is the answer in the calculator?
Yeah, no, it is right. Okay, it's fine.
Oh,
20.
20. So with that being said, what can we call? It says here, so what we know is the other 15, right? Whatever they are, if you add them to the previous ones, the overall average would be equal to 20. So logically speaking, this is what you need to do with when you work out average. Remember, any question, whatever they would ask you, always use the main thing. So the main thing in this question is mean. So you want to ask yourself, how do you calculate mean? So here we have two batches, right? There's batch number 1, batch number 2. Whatever these are, when you add them up and you divide by 30, you should get a 20, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, when you add these up here, everything, you divide by 30, you get a 20. What we know is there's 15 values here, 15 values here. See, so if you know that the mean for these is 25, you can almost, for calculation purposes, you can almost assume that every number here is 25. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's say here you have 25 times 15. That's what these numbers are going to add up to. But then what we know is here we also have 15 numbers, right? But then we don't know what the average should be for you to then add these two, divide by 30 and get a 20. I'll repeat. The 25 times the 15 here gives you the total of what this should be. But then 15 numbers here multiplied by a certain number it is technically supposed to give us what this is all supposed to add up to. And depending on whatever all this is supposed to add up to, we know that if we were to then say this value here plus this value here divided by the 30, it would just give us a 20. Because the x here is representing what the average for each of these individual ones here should be. So that when you add everything up and divide by 30, it gives you a 20. Before we do move on, right, is this clear or we need to re-explain it? Because we can definitely do that if needs be.
No, it makes sense. I was just having a look in the answers. Though I'm gonna it. They do it even simpler than that.
So,
Yeah.
but okay, before you tell me what's in the back, let's see if we can make it even simpler. Because as I'm writing this, I'm also realizing, yeah, this is a bit too technical. So let's see if I can, crack my brain and write something simple. So what we know is, right, what you may call, everything should give us an overall average of 20, right?
Yeah.
So what we know is everything, if everything should give us an average of 20, you can think to yourself, 25 plus x divided by 2 is equal to 20. If you're going to get an average of 20 after adding up these two numbers, you can first work out x, right? So this
Yeah.
is going to be times 2 times 2, going to be a 40. This is 25 plus x. X is equal to
Yeah.
40 minus 25. That's like 15. What we know is the average here should be 15, because if you say if the average for the other 15 days is 15, the average for the first days is 25. Add them up, dividing by 2 to give you 20. So the question here was asking for the maximum amount of data. Obviously, if the average for this is a 15, the maximum amount would then be 15 times 15, which is 225. What did I
Why
do?
did you take 15 times 15? Hmm.
Oh, so this is
I would-
average, and then these are the amount of days. So it's, if the average is 15, it means that technically the total for the other 15 days should be 15 times 15. Because if average is 15, it's almost like if you spread out all the data, each day would have 15 days.
Okay.
Yeah, because remember, this is saying the average for the second half is just a 15. So if the average is a 15, then what you know is if you were to reverse engineer everything that you did to get the 15, you know that just like what we were saying with that other question, if
But
the average
wouldn't
is
you take your original average 25 times 15?
25, wait, hold on. Calculate the maximum total amount of data that Sam must use for the remainder of the month if she wishes the overall mean to be 80% of the minute. Not necessarily.
Because they said we should calculate the overall mean. So
Calculate
the
the maximum
overall mean
amount of
is
data
25.
for the first few days, then calculate the maximum total amount of data that Sam must use for the remainder of the month if she wishes the overall mean of April to be 80% of the mean for the first 15 days. Okay, what is the answer at the back of the book?
So the answer in the back of the book, so they first take 20 times 30 days, which gives you 600 megabytes. And then they take the 600 minus 375, which gives you 225 megabytes. Okay. Got it.
Yeah. So yeah, because basically all they did was yeah, as you said, you said what they did already. So this was just different from that. Because this is to say the first 15 days, the other 15 days, the average between them should just be 20. But we know what this average is, and we don't know what this average is, you see. So as long as we know the average for the second batch, we know that we can just multiply that average by the number of data. Then that's gonna give us
Yeah.
225.
Make